Well, good day to you. It is June the 24th, and I hope you are having a great weekend. My name is Gary Willing. I want to welcome you to Search for Signs. And just do a quick plug. If you want to know more about who and what Maitreya is, about his priorities, why he's here, if you want to see if there's any truth to any of this information, the best thing to do is to read more about him. I've included links in the description portion of these videos that take you to websites that talk about this information. That's why I put them in there, so you can perhaps see if there's any truth to this for yourself. So look into it for yourself or not. It's there for you whenever you want to look into it, and they're free. So if you don't have to do it today, but if you want to do it, 16 years from now or whatever, they will always be up. So anyway, I hope you do it sooner than later, because it can really help you make some sense or heads or tails on what we're talking about here. So if that interests you. All right, now, if you want to join the discussion, post comments, post your questions in the comments section. You can even, if you like, email me at searchforsigns@mail.com. Now, typically what I do is I read out the people who have commented and asked questions, but what's happened on my YouTube app is it's not giving me their YouTube name anymore. It's the @. So I guess YouTube is changing over to this way of doing it. So it's a little harder for me to read out the names. So I probably am going to stop. Because some of these are really, really hard to decode. But anyway, I want to thank everybody who's commented. I really do appreciate it. I will go through some of the comments, and maybe we can learn more about this information in that way. But I wanted to say this, because this actually is the 666th video that I put up. And I know there are a lot of people who think that Maitreya is the Antichrist. They're going to love this one being up. Now, truth be told, there's no way to put up more videos in the future unless I put up a 666 video at some point. So that's what this video is. Now, I have no superstition about those numbers. I know people really do. Coming from their own religious ideology, I get it. But I wanted to briefly talk about the Antichrist, and then I'm going to talk about some of the things that people have commented on. But if you are coming to this information for the first time, don't know anything about the Ageless Wisdom Teachings, and you're coming from more of a Christian perspective, of course you're going to be concerned that I'm talking about an Antichrist figure. According to the Ageless Wisdom Teaching, and this is just something I want you to think about, you don't have to believe me, just think about it for a second, that this may be possibly true, or I guess would be open to the fact that this could be true, is that the Antichrist is not an individual, it's an energy. And so much in the Bible, especially in Revelation, was put in there symbolically to paint a picture of the future based on what John was seeing, but in symbolic form, and not to be taken literally. Just as in the beginning, in Genesis, was the same kind of deal with Adam and Eve. Was not meant to be taken literally, but in terms of the creation of humanity, creation of the universe, was in allegory form, so that people at that time could perhaps have a basic understanding of the creation of humanity, creation of the universe, and those kind of things. In the same way, John was not talking about the end of the world. He was talking about the end of that time that's now coming to an end, and we're moving into a new time with a new way of looking at life, new way of looking at things. So I say this with all honesty. Really, the book of Revelation, for most people, is very frightening and very scary. They live their whole lives out in this fear that they're living in the end times. And this is not the only time period where that's happened. There have been other people centuries ago that thought that it was the end times based on what they were thinking John was saying, and interpreting it that way, incorrectly, unfortunately. Wasted their whole lives, probably spread a lot of fear and misinformation about what John was talking about. But here's my point. If looked through the eyes of fear and ideology, and you truly believe that ideology, what John was saying in the revelations and the allegory and the pictures that he was painting it through his words can be very frightening. It's probably the most frightening book of the Bible. But look through the eyes of love, it is the most hopeful book in the Bible, actually. So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Now, the topic of the Antichrist comes up all the time. And fortunately for me, it hasn't come up that much in the last month or two. But the Antichrist is an energy, not meant to be taken as an individual, as so many people do. But it's manifested itself twice that the Ageless Wisdom Teachings talk about. The first time was during the time of Nero, which was right toward the end of that cycle into the new age of that time, which was the age of Pisces. Manifested through the Emperor Nero, it destroyed the old ways of thinking and relating to allow a new way of thinking and relating to flourish, which it has over the last 2,000 years. It allowed Christian ideas and thoughts and beliefs to flourish, and those beliefs would not have flourished in the way that they did had it not been for the Antichrist energy manifesting through Nero. 2,000 years ago or so, or nearly 2,000 years ago. Now, fast forward to just a little while ago with World War I and World War II. That same ancient nefarious energy called the Antichrist, or referred to in Revelation as the Antichrist, manifested itself through the Axis powers, the Nazis in Germany, the militarists in Japan, and the fascists in Italy. And if you look with an open mind and you study European history of the 30s and 40s, you could see a lot of the qualities that people were thinking that the Antichrist will be coming back as with Hitler, who Hitler was not the Antichrist per se. It could be said that he was the poster child for the Antichrist for sure, but that energy manifested through that entire group. But here's where I want you to kind of look at what happened since then. It destroyed the ways of thinking and relating of the past. And there has been a new way of thinking and relating to occur since then, just as it happened 2,000 years ago when that was released through Nero. We see life totally different than we did just 100 or so years ago. We relate to each other totally different than we did. So the energy, it's destructive. It's of a nefarious origin, but it does have a purpose, and the purpose is to destroy the old ways of thinking. It's like clearing a field before the farmer actually plows it and starts to plant the crops. And in that analogy, the field has already been destroyed, through the Antichrist, and it happened in the 30s and 40s, or actually from the 19 teens to the mid-40s is when that Antichrist energy was released. And so since then, the field has been plowed and the seeds are already starting to be planted is really where we're at. And I'm talking in a symbolic form, just as John was talking in symbolic form, talking about the Antichrist. I'm not talking about a little farmer, but the ideas of the Christ, the priorities of the Christ, those seeds are already starting to be planted. And we're just not seeing the growth yet. But in a very short order, we will start to see some sprouts. And it won't be perfect. It won't be anything that will happen overnight. But we're already starting to see the changes. You can't deny that the world has come very, very far in the last 100 or so years. Just technologically, the way we communicate, the way we see each other, even some of the things that bug us, like political correctness, we have we can't harm people with our words with impunity like we used to be able to. We can't put people down. We can't oppress people the way we could 100 or so years ago. Now it's not as accepted. So this is a direct result of that Antichrist energy. This is a direct result of seeing each other differently, seeing each other more and more as we really are, which is each and every one of us as divine, each and every one of us having a right to live. Now, as we move into the next few years, Maitreya's ideas and thoughts and priorities about the need for sharing will start to take hold in the minds of not only our political leaders, but in humanity as a whole. We will see that it's unacceptable to live in a world where we have such disparities in economic divisions. So that's where the Antichrist fits in. So all the people who are coming from a Christian ideology that stumble across this channel, comment from time to time, perhaps don't comment, but still think he's the Antichrist and listen to these videos for whatever reason, and are looking for the Antichrist, waiting for the Antichrist, are really wasting their time. The Antichrist is come and gone. and will not be coming back for, 3,000 or so years will be the next time. So a long time from now. So, but the work is done. And over the next 2,500 years, the priorities of Maitreya, the need, sharing, justice, peace, the manifested unity, manifested love will start to take hold on this planet, and we'll start to see the growth coming from that same field that was destroyed by the Antichrist. You'll see the same growth in those seeds, and that's where we're at right now. So anyway, just wanted to kind of talk about it since I haven't talked about it in a while. Now, to that end, Ricardo Pelsuasali said, "Man must learn to love again, the essence of his being. The light within guides him towards that manifestation. So let it be." And he's quoting Ben's master, I believe. But here's the thing, and this is something that I think is important to look at, the need to love. And we don't, especially in the United States, don't put a lot of emphasis on it. In fact, a lot of people think it's a character flaw. You know what I'm saying? When you actually care about other people, when you think about other people, but nothing can be further from the truth in that regard. It is man's destiny to learn how to love one another, and to not just love his own self and his own family, perhaps his own country, and be patriotic in that way, but to love everyone in the entire world, but not in a mystical sense, not in a far off kind of ideal, but in reality. It starts with the principle of sharing, of course, globally. That's going to start the process of bringing about justice, bringing about peace, eventually bringing about goodwill and trust amongst the nations and the peoples of the world, eventually bringing about manifested love and unity on this planet. That's the steps. It starts with the principle of sharing. But for each and every one of us listening to this, one thing that Maitreya said to me that has really changed the way that I view people around me is he said, "I never judge anyone on whether they're good or bad. I only notice the good things that they do." That's what he said. So, I talk about my experiences with Maitreya not to boast, but for you guys who perhaps have not benefited from hearing Maitreya speak, and some of his teachings can benefit from this. It doesn't matter that you weren't there when he said it. What matters is taking what he is saying, what he said, and applying it to your life. But just try one time. Just try it for like a week. The people at work, the people that bug you at work, your family, people that, you come into your life, try to find one good thing that they've done and hold on to it and see if that doesn't change the way that you view them, make you perhaps less critical. These masters know nothing but joy. Ben's master talks about it not every time, but a lot of times when he's talking about the masters, he talks about the joy of these masters. When he's talking about the work that they're doing, he talks about the joy that they have while doing it and so forth, and how their joy is their hallmark. It's who and what they are. It all comes from them seeing life as one. He also said that nothing so pierces the veil of unity like criticism. So if you find yourself being critical, you're not manifesting unity at all. It's the exact opposite of it. But I found when Maitreya said that to me, and I started to apply it to my life, it's changed the way that I've seen people in my life. It's changed the way I've seen myself. It's brought me more joy. But you can't go from being a critical person, such as I was, to being an absolute loving person unconditionally, as these masters are. You have to do it. You have to work at it. You can't just do it one time and they get it. It takes practice. And I do think that the first steps is just be less critical. You know what I'm saying? But you can't say to yourself, I want to be less critical. You can't wake up one day and say that to yourself and have it work. You have to do it throughout your day. Take the time that we have here living this life and apply some of the principles, like learning how to love, learning how to be less critical. But to me, it never works in the negative. I can't say I'm not going to be critical. I have to do something to get there. And one way to do it is just to look and see of one good thing, just one thing that somebody's doing that's right, that's good. I know from work, I have a lot of people who are very critical of other people, and yet there's always this work shortages. And one of the things, if I can't find anything about a person that they're doing right, a lot of times it's just, they showed up to work, didn't they? You know what I'm saying? So that always kind of puts an end to some of the criticism that people have toward other people, and I defend them in that way. Well, at least they showed up. You could have had to work a double, had they not shown up. You know what I mean? So that's one good thing. They might suck at everything else that they do. You know what I'm saying? But they at least did that. But anyway, thank you very much for the comment, Ricardo, nonetheless. All right. Let's see. Now, the other one that I wanted to talk about, because I just recorded one of Benjamin Creme's master's articles talking about devotion. Okay, so this is coming from James 1 Beatty. He said, Lord Kuthumi, bottom center. Actually, Kuthumi was actually the top center, by the way. He's at the top. That's the Master Morya. Gave our world a lot of spiritual information through HPB. Let's see. But that information is lying low in silent neglect. Lord Jual, top left, followed with a lot of information through the messenger Alice Bailey. But how many church leaders have bothered to look through it? Probably not very many, James. Then came Lord Maitreya himself, center left, with a lot of information through Benjamin Creme and the Last Testament. But has the Vatican ever seen a copy of the Last Testament? Probably not that many of them. The church is content to remain in the chains of Roman Catholic tradition with its distorted truth. Now, I wanted to kind of talk about this, James. So in the very, once Maitreya is out, known for who he is after the Day of Declaration, he's going to start to introduce these masters, not only just these, but some of the other ones. Now, the only one that's not a master at this time is Ben, who's across from from Maitreya, center right, actually. But each one by one. I wouldn't be surprised if the Master Jesus is the first one that he introduces. The Master Jesus's role will be to work with the churches, to help kind of eschew some of the distortions that they've had, to help clarify some of the things that they perhaps misunderstanding, or some of the misunderstandings of their teachings in the Bible and so forth, to perhaps put back in what was taken out by man over the centuries and those kind of things, to help bring more to what he was saying 2,000 years ago, or what he had said 2,000 years ago. That's, I think, the role of Jesus. I mean, he's going to be doing more than just that, but that's the main role of Jesus, to bring the churches truly to what they really were supposed to be all along. Teachers and mentors for humanity, for the truth, and to provide healing for the people. And as the Master DK says, they teach very little and they heal absolutely not at all. So bring it more true to who they are is what his role is. Of course, humanity will have to ask the Master Jesus to do this. He's not just going to impose his will on us. One thing I will say that I think is rather hopeful, if he lives long enough to see it, is I do think that the Pope that is in the position today, Pope Francis, is the right man for the job. I think of all the potential popes that the church could have picked, I do think they picked the right one. It's like the one time in my life that I think humanity's gotten it right. It seems like the leaders that really have humanity's, within their priorities of humanity, the real for real in their heart, and that's why they're in those positions of power, seem to either be removed by somebody else who is perhaps more in line with their selfish intentions and those kind of selfish intentions of their group need versus what the world needs, to they were assassinated, to all sorts of things. And this Pope seems to be the right one for the right job, because I do think that he does not have any attachments to the power that his position holds, or at least he seems to not have that. And he will be one, I think, that will turn to the Master Jesus and ask him for his advice. I wouldn't be surprised if he's already knows who the Master Jesus is, already knows who Maitreya is. He just can't say it right now because it would be an infringement upon the billion of Catholics out there, or how many hundreds of millions of Catholics that are out in the world right now. If he came out and said that these masters are real, that Maitreya is real, it would infringe their free will. They have to see what Maitreya is saying is true for what he's saying, not just because what the Pope is saying is true. So, but the one thing I did want to bring into this discussion of ideology, and when it comes to not only the Christians but everybody else, And this is from an article that I just recorded that will be getting put up in the next day or so. But it's coming from Ben's Master's article, The Moment of Truth. At the very last paragraph, he says, each age bestows on mankind a culminating grace. The age now passing has conferred on man the quality of devotion, and on every hand this aspect can be seen. Until now, devotion has been directed to the self, one's country, and a far-off God. With our help and example, men will devote themselves to each other and to the God within all. Thus will it be. Thus will man come to know himself and his brothers as God, and thus will God become manifest through men. So I wanted to leave us with that. I really do appreciate you guys commenting. I love you guys very much. You guys have a great day. Thank you, everybody, and I'll look forward to putting up videos in the very near future. Take care. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.